How to study the Bible as an entrepreneur. I'm actually going to talk about how I personally study the Bible. I've been in business for many, many years in taxes and accounting and worked with other lots of business owners. So I feel like this is a very important part when it comes to owning your own business, being an entrepreneur. So when I read the Bible, to me, it's more of a history book. So you see what happened and things like that. Yes, of course, there's lots of life lessons. There's things how you're supposed to act, and there's things how you're supposed to do, and everything else. But in all reality, it's a history book. It's what happened to who it happened. Some books are like a novel, some books are just more like history. I mean, there's so many things in the Bible. Just as a book in general itself, it's a very interesting book. Um, but in general, reading the Bible daily is almost like reading basically a book. You have to implement the things you're reading. You have to understand what you're reading. You have to find the value in it and how it applies to your life. But in general, as just a regular book, it's almost like a history book. I've had conversations with people who are not even Christian and, other religion and things like that. And they say, you know what? It's just a fun history reading book. So when it comes to reading the Bible, so as an entrepreneur, are devotionals better? Like when you're reading the Bible, right? And especially those, you know, boring chapters, not really boring, but useful chapters, but boring, so and so birth so and so, so and so birth so and so, and I mean that goes for chapters and chapters, but are devotionals better than the Bible? Like you pick up a devotional, you have specific Bible verses, you know exactly what you're going to be praying about, what you're going to be reading about, what you're going to be thinking about. Is that better than the Bible? Well, in all honesty, I used to think so. I honestly lived by devotions at one time. I have so many devotional books. Now, of course, they're all pretty much personal. But as a devotional, there's not very many books for the business. And that's very unfortunate. So when I shifted and I'm like, I need to, yes, I'm reading the Bible. Yes, I'm having these devotionals, but I need to focus more on my business, focus more on my growth and things like that. I need to shift my devotionals, shift my Bible reading to incorporate my business. So when I started looking for a devotional specifically for business, there weren't that very many. And if there was a devotional book for a business, it was like specific to mostly marketing, but specific to other things. There was one book that I found that was like borderline, not a devotional, but borderline witchcraft. And I was like, I am not doing this. There's no way. And I literally threw that book away. But devotional books, like you pick up a devotional book for your personal life, there's so many. There's great books out there. I love them. I literally collect them. But for the business, there's not very many. So when I was searching for it and I came to the realization there wasn't that many, I decided to read the Bible as more like of a devotional. And I started with Joshua, and that's one of my favorite books of the Bible is Joshua, because Moses to me felt like was the preparation, but Joshua actually got into the promised land. We got to see it all unfold. So to me, Joshua is hands down one of my favorite books. So as I started to read Joshua, and with my eyes, with perspective, with the wisdom from a business owner's perspective, like I'm going to read Joshua chapter 1. What lessons can I implement into my business? What strategies can I look at for my business. Maybe I need to act a different way or whatever. So I prayed a prayer and I said, God, I'm looking for a devotional. I can't find a devotional. I literally felt like I heard a voice and it just said, read the Bible from the view of an entrepreneur. And I started with Joshua. And as we see here, the second verse says, Moses, my servant, is dead. Moses died. What now? And then God says, now then, you and all these people get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I am about to give to them, to the Israelites. To me, it was such a huge eye opener, right? Moses died, and now Joshua is stepping into Moses' shoes to lead the Israelites, to the promised land. What basically to fulfill what Moses was promising them all those years. Joshua is like, okay, it's on my shoulders to take them there. I literally thought about it as like a business owner, right? And like you buy a business or you're stepping into the new marketplace, right? And it's like you're competing among these I mean, there's like giants pretty much who've been in business for so long, who've been doing what you're doing. You're competing against them. You're in the marketplace and it's like who am I going to listen to? Moses for 40 years, he was teaching us, promising all these things. And who are you, Joshua? You just came on scene, to me personally, so I do tax preparation and accounting. I'm not a CPA. So when I opened up my business and I started doing taxes and accounting, I am an IRS enrolled agent. It's just a different license. But to me, CPA seemed like they were my Moses, somebody that I could never compare myself to, compete against, or anything else like that. But then in reality, as I gained more and more customers, and as I received these tax returns that I've seen other CPAs complete, and I was like, oh my goodness, I actually do know what I'm doing. So, and that just goes across to all people. We have this imposter syndrome. Like, who am I? What am I doing here amongst these giants? How can I stand out? How can I compete? I'm not good enough. Nothing like that. And so when I was reading Joshua, what I have noticed that God himself had to tell Joshua not once, not twice, but 4 times. He's like, be strong and courageous. That to me, reading Joshua chapter 1, that completely opened my eyes because as an entrepreneur, we constantly need motivation. Yes, we need the discipline instead of the motivation, but we get defeated, we get beat down, we get worn out, whatever. So we always like need motivation. And to me, this verse, be strong and courageous, is repeated 4 times. So, in my mind, reading the Bible as an entrepreneur, I see that Joshua had to step into huge shoes to fill. And then he was probably doubting himself because God had to encourage him 4 times. So, that day completely changed my life. I started reading the Bible completely differently, completely searching what it is that the Bible is teaching me when it comes to my business. Everything in the Bible is able to give you a business lesson. I'm talking about encouragement, I'm talking about strategies and the framework for making decisions rooted in integrity, faith, and wisdom. And of course, the finances. Actually, for my surprise, when I learned this, the Bible, Jesus specifically talked about finances more than anything else. Yeah, I know it's crazy. And when you think about it, what? But yeah. But in order for you to be able to understand it, you just need to recognize the wisdom it offers. And my favorite Bible verse, literally my favorite Bible verse, I mean, I have a lot many, but this is absolutely one of my favorite. James 1:5. It says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generally, sorry, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you." That's so amazing. If you really look at this verse, all you need to do is ask. And I often pray this. I say, God, you said all I need to do is ask, and you will give it to me generously without finding any fault. This is not one of those things, please God, and I'll do better. And this, no, it says, if any one of you lacks wisdom, just ask. He will give it to you without even finding fault in you, and it will be given to you. That's literally one of my absolute favorite Bible verses. So here's some tips. And basically, this is what I do pretty much every day. So set a regular time where you're doing your Bible reading, where you're praying, where you're just focusing on that. And I don't mean by a time like a specific time, like 6 a.m., because everybody's internal clock is a little different. But for me, I'm a morning person. So I'm not necessarily putting a time on it. I'm putting it in regards to my morning routine. Where does it fall in my morning routine, right? So my time falls right after I get my cup of coffee. I go to my desk, I sit down, and that's when my time begins. Some days that's at 5 a.m., some days it's at 9 a.m. It does not matter to me personally what the time is, but it matters more to me where it is in my morning routine. And then I start with a wisdom prayer. It's just a short prayer, and basically it's one of my favorite verses. I pray that, or I pray something else. I pray something like, open up my mind, open up my heart, let my eyes see, and things like that. Just basically let me hear what you're saying. Give me wisdom to understand it, things like that. Just a short prayer. And then when I read the Bible, no matter what chapter I'm in and things like that, I focus on the relevance. As I'm reading it, I'm thinking about how could I implement this? How can I use this? How can this serve as my encouragement in my business? And then, of course, for me personally, I have a journal. I have so many. Um, I have I have to write about what I thought, what I felt, what I heard from God, how I'm going to use this, what I read, how is this used for the business and things like that. And I've been doing this for years and years and years. I have so many notes saved on each book of the Bible. Wherever I'm reading, I jot down notes that specifically for Joshua, I was actually able to turn it into a business devotional book. It actually ended up being like 3 volumes, couldn't fit it all in one book. It would be too big, too fat. So if you guys are interested, you could check that out. But overall, journaling is extremely important. Get a cute one, get a cute journal so you want to write it in. And I say I prefer pen to paper because there's something about you writing it. I've tried both, and I have both typed and written, but I prefer I'm an office girl, so I have all the pretty pens, I have all the pretty notebooks, I have all the pretty highlights and all the stickers and whatever. But to me, writing it out, I just feel like it's more personal. To you, it might be different, whatever it is. But basically, this is how I study the Bible, read the Bible as an entrepreneur, and these are my suggestions. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you tuning in. Visit our website, christianbusinesssisterhood.com, for some freebies and some additional information. Please also like, share, review, and of course, subscribe. And this podcast, this YouTube video was sponsored by Golden Apple Agency. It is my agency. We do tax and accounting services. If you ever need any help, feel free to visit us at goldenappleagencyinc.com. And again, thanks so much for joining me. And until next time.